good day, and welcome back to the Constitution Line by Line. I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And I'm Don Frazier.
And we are approaching this line-by-line Constitution from a political science perspective and a historical perspective. And Don Frazier has been adding a lot of economics into it, too. So,
well, I'm practicing economics without a license, but you can't understand history without understanding economics.
That's true.
Follow the money.
So here we are, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Ready?
Clause 3.
So Congress, we're talking about the powers of Congress. Congress shall have the power. Here we go.
Is this where Congress puts its clauses out?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you better believe it.
All right, good.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Congress shall have the power, here we go, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Whoa, boy.
So much in so few words.
You got it. Okay. Where do we start?
Let's start with between the... No, you start where you want to start.
I want to start with just a philosophical thing first.
Okay, great.
I thought we were a free enterprise country, a capitalist country.
Sure.
And yet here is the Constitution saying to the Congress, you can interfere, you can regulate commerce.
Because we're a free enterprise country, not a pirate country.
Whoa.
And that's a big difference.
Whoa.
Free enterprise even has rules.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people would like
I thought they were enforced by that hidden hand of Adam Smith.
Well, I think that there's still that going on.
Right.
So the invisible hand to which you are referring comes from the wealth of nations.
Right.
That essentially there is unwritten rules that will regulate commerce naturally.
Right.
Without any sort of artificial interference. But sooner or later, the invisible hand is attached to some invisible body, yes. And that invisible body, in our case, will be Congress.
Yes. And so what Congress has done over time is they've started regulating commerce. Then they created agencies that help them in that. The Interstate Commerce Commission, for one.
Sure.
And then you name the task that's before it, transportation, energy, you name it, communication. There's a government agency that's regulating it.
Because Clause 3 is also wrapped up in Clauses 1 and 2.
Yes, it is.
Debt is a function of this.
And
taxation is a function of this. You can't collect duties unless you say that they can regulate commerce, because that intervention is, in fact, anti-capitalist.
Yes.
That is socializing some of the economic activity. So when people say,
wait, are we a socialist country?
Well, there's elements of the United States that have been socialist from day one. But
Shocking.
I know, but it's not free cell phones and free college socialism.
Oh, darn.
Nah, doggone it. I don't know. Free college might be bad for small liberal arts schools.
Private liberal arts schools,
Yeah,
yes.
that are having to compete in a free market that's
Yeah,
not necessarily
really
free. But so we're a free enterprise country, but we're not a pirate country. And I say that because, piracy is purely the role of the rules of the marketplace.
Okay.
Guys with the biggest guns and the fastest ships win.
Right. And by the way, there will be rules about dealing with pirates
later
on in
on,
the Constitution.
because we don't like them.
Yeah, they didn't like pirates.
Yeah, pirates are bad. All right, so this idea of regulating international commerce is wrapped up in those Clause 1 and 2, certainly. But it's the interstate commerce which is kind of interesting because it has very interesting implications.
Yes.
I mean, today we're talking about places like Colorado where you can smoke weed.
Right.
But
or just to timestamp us again. Last night, the voters in Denver, did you see this? Tentatively.
Oh, you can drop mushrooms.
Yes, yeah, magic mushrooms.
Magic mushrooms. But I mean, now that's spread to several other states. And so there are activities in one particular state that may not be legal in a different state.
Yes.
But clearly you're going to have interactions between those two states. And so a lot of times the federal government has used this ability to regulate interstate commerce in order to try to impose policy without legislating policy, which is Interesting. So, nationwide, we don't want to be a nation of pot smokers. If Coloradans want to be pot smokers, get after it. California, come on.
Okay.
That's a natural place.
Yeah. Texas?
Texas is kind of flirting with it.
We're more than flirting.
Yeah.
Then we backed away.
Because everybody said, look, all you valley counties, back up. All right. So federal policy is we're not going to legalize weed, but different states can. But then all of a sudden, what happens when you're trying to finance it?
Right. And federal policy won't allow the use of federally insured banks.
Correct. Many of which are multi-state.
Correct.
So in many places, it's a cash and carry business, which would make me very, very nervous.
Yes. But they're doing well, apparently.
Yeah.
In Colorado and other places.
Yeah. Interesting.
So.
But this applied to slavery, too.
Okay. How so? Explain.
Well, Congress, as we'll find, has no laws that says that they can make a particular type of property illegal. Okay? Now, we're talking about human property, so it makes it kind of icky, but there was no enumerated power. So what they did was they tried to regulate slavery using this interstate commerce clause. So the idea, and later on we'll find out that Congress can regulate commerce on the high seas and things like that. So they just made it impossible for you to ship slaves on boats from places like Virginia to Louisiana. And so Southerners were watching all of this, that essentially that the federal government might start regulating using these clauses without legislating different kinds of economic activities out of existence. Most recently, in modern memory, the coal miners and coal companies were arguing this exact same thing. Some people fear that all the climate change talk will also grant Congress the ability to say, all right, this species of economic activity is now extinct because we say it is, because it violates this clause.
Right. So what we've got is the government giving itself through the Constitution permission, dare I say it, to choose winners and losers?
Yeah. They're putting their fingers on the scale.
They really are. And so it's really a political decision.
Bingo. Yeah, absolutely.
That affects economics here.
That's right. And when the political losers don't like it, sometimes they resort to extreme measures.
Right. Now, as you describe this, you're saying that we are not a pure capitalistic society.
That's what I'm saying.
You're saying that free enterprise here in the United States from the very beginning was not free enterprise.
Not purely free enterprise, no. There was free enterprise with bumpers.
Right. And what's gone on is, if you look at court rulings, for example, is that this commerce clause that we're talking about in the Constitution has applied so much that we're not just talking about something that crosses state borders, but simply activity that's taking place within a state. The federal government has been able to get away with figuring out how it can regulate it, even if it just stays within a state.
Because somehow there's going to be an extra state connection.
Right.
And this comes up during the Depression,
Yes.
during the sick chicken case is the one I'm thinking of in particular, where, all right, you're selling chickens in New York City, but you're raising them in New Jersey, so there you go.
Right, you used our highways.
That's right, you used our highways, so therefore you're now subject to these rules and regulations.
Yeah, so this was the beginning. All those people who complain about regulations, we certainly do in higher education. You name an industry, people complain about regulation. This is where it came from. This is where they got the right to do it.
Now, old school conservatives would refer to this as ordered liberty.
Ordered liberty. Okay.
So there's a difference between liberty and libertine.
Right.
So we have the freedom to play by these rules. The question is, sometimes they change the rules.
Yes.
And that was part of the consternation in 1860, is people had a huge amount of their personal wealth tied up in a species of property.
Right, you're talking
I'm talking about slaves.
Human beings.
Yeah, And again, if you adjusted it for inflation, we're talking about assets to the tune of $20 trillion that essentially they're being told will be written off the books by the federal government's use of this regulatory clause to try to restrict that activity so much that all of a sudden those assets will plummet in value. And a lot of people don't look at the Civil War like that or secession like that. And they say, well, it was about states' rights and revenues and things like that. It was also about the balance sheet. Yeah. You know, if my balance sheet has as much value in slave property as it has in real estate, then I'm going to try to figure out how to justify emancipation economically. And the way the British did it was through compensated manumission, but that's compensation.
Yeah, there was no compensation.
There was no compensation. Like,
at the end of the Civil War, it's like, okay, you can't have slaves anymore.
You just can't have it.
That what you called as property, you can't have anymore.
Yeah, they're actually people.
Yeah,
as it turns out.
Yeah. Okay. One final thought I want to make about this is this is in the Constitution, but it's led to so much debate over time over what the government can get involved in, what the government can't get involved in.
Correct.
And by the way, that debate continues to this day. You think about the upcoming 2020 election, and you can hear on the Republican side people talking about socialism and socialistic policies that are coming from the Democrats. And the Democrats are saying, well, the Republicans are heartless in their belief in free enterprise. And so actually what we're having is a debate that was actually set up by the very Constitution.
By the Constitution. Which makes it awesome.
Yeah.
Because all these conversations need to be had.
Yes.
Now, people need to back up and be nice in their conversations and change their tone, in my opinion.
Okay, well, where's that in the Constitution about being nice? I thought you said we were a bunch of cranky people.
We are a bunch of cranky people that should be nice.
I agree, by the way.
Yeah, but it's not in the Constitution.
It's not in the Constitution.
It'd be interesting if there was an enumerated power. And Congress shall regulate people's moods and temperaments.
No. All right, let's get out of here.
So that's our line?
That's our line.
All right, so we'll pick up the next line in the next episode.